So the video you're just about to watch comes from one of my online preparation courses, either the theory preparation course, or teaching in pool and classroom, or the full IDC preparation course. There's lots more information in the link below, and there's also lots more information at the end of this video. Anyway, enjoy the video. I hope you learn from it, and I certainly hope to see you again soon. Thanks. Okay, this session is all about questions that you'll find in your PADI instructor exams regarding decompression illness. Now, decompression illness covers both lung overexpansion injury and also decompression sickness. Now, as usual, I think that the best way for you to learn this is to use that approach of by teaching, we learn. So what's a really good idea is while you're watching this video, try to imagine that you're teaching this subject onwards to a class. And it's really amazing how quickly you do learn when you start using that approach. I mean, you are going to become instructors soon anyway. So anyway, let's start with this, with teaching about burst lungs. But how can you teach lung overexpansion injury to other people? Well, I guess that most instructors, they usually start by talking about balloons bursting. And I guess that's fairly descriptive for open water divers because for them it's a great analogy and it certainly gets the point across, like they can imagine that if they was to hold their breath, their lung is going to burst during a dive. But for those of us that are heading towards dive master exams or our IDC exams, we need to know just a little bit more than a burst balloon, because now we find out that unlike a balloon simply bursting, we now need to learn that symptoms change depending on whereabouts in the lung that it bursts. And along with that comes some horrendous words. Words like emphysema, mediastinal, pneumothorax. I mean, there's loads of words, all these medical terms. Now, the good news is that you'd never have to remember what those words are, but it's a really good idea if that you can recognise them. And I think that I'm going to be able to help a little bit along those lines. So let's get started then. So, well, if you didn't realise, this is a drawing of my lungs. It's not exactly an X-ray, but you know. Now let's imagine that I held my breath while I was on the dive. Now, as I came up towards the surface, air's going to expand, and of course my lungs would eventually, they'd burst. But where? Now, let's imagine first off that the lungs are going to burst right here at the bottom, sort of here. Let's say in this area. So air would expand, burst the lungs and get into this area. And as I come up further, that air in turn would then expand in the middle of my stomach. So you can imagine the type of discomfort that I'm going to feel, sort of bloated and in pain just around here in the middle of my body. Now this is called mediastinal emphysema. Now, if we look at the beginning of this word, MED, now this in olden times was used to describe words that meant the middle, you know, like Mediterranean, the middle of the earth, MED. So if we can just recognise the med bit, then that'll remind us that it's sort of the one that's in the middle. Now, let's have another look to see what will happen if my lung didn't burst here, but it burst somewhere else. Okay, so maybe up here at the top, here right near my neck, up here, right at the top of my lungs here. Now we can see as we held our breath and air expanded, it burst here, and then it would come around this part of the body. It would make the neck swollen, it'd make it crispy skinned, and it'd be a little bit like a big saggy fat balloon really. Now let's have a look to see what this one's called. It's called subcutaneous emphysema. Emphysema, by the way, it just means trapped air. So subcutaneous, if we have a look at this word, sub means underneath, like it would do in submarine. Cutaneous, that's to do with the skin. So literally what this is talking about is under the skin, subcutaneous. And we know that emphysema means trapped air, so trapped air underneath the skin. And you can sort of imagine what it would feel like if it was all under here. Okay, now for another word. You can see from my drawing here that these bits here represent the rib cage because the lungs are inside the rib cage. Now look what would happen if there was going to be a burst lung here. Here. Now what would happen here is then air would get trapped into this cavity between the lung and the rib cage. And what would happen then is as I continue to surface and that area here expanded, the air here would expand and it would cause the lung to collapse down here, like this. Okay. Now this is called a pneumothorax. Now, if we have a look at these words again, pneumo means air, as it would do in pneumatic tyre, okay, and thorax, that's like the chest area. So pneumothorax means air in the chest area. Now what we can see here is the air's got into the chest area and expanded as I seem to come up to the surface, and then what it's done is collapsed the lung, which is what often happens when air gets into that cavity. So all we really need to remember now is words like med for middle, sub for underneath the skin, and pneumothorax. This will probably be a collapsed lung. The next one we're going to do is the worst case scenario now. We're going to talk about a gas embolism. We often get PADI questions asking us what is the most serious lung overexpansion injury, and of course the answer is always going to be gas embolism. Now, the gas embolism is when gas, and in this case it's probably going to be air if we've got a burst lung, is air gets into the bloodstream. But how can that happen? Well, you know the transfer of gases, that's in the alveoli here. So we've got the bloodstream here, and then we've got the alveoli coming in here. And this is where the exchange of gases is. This is where oxygen gets transferred into the blood and carbon dioxide comes back out of the blood. Now, if we had this worst case scenario and we get a rupture here, then what we're going to do is we're going to get bubbles that go into the bloodstream. Of course, this is very similar to decompression sickness, where instead of air bubbles, nitrogen bubbles can appear into the bloodstream. Now that lesson on Henry's law in the physics section explains this in more detail. But the end result is that if you ascend too fast, the pressure gradient of dissolved nitrogen is greater than the surrounding pressure around you. And just like the common fizzy drink analogy, bubbles can form, leading to serious problems. But whatever the cause of those bubbles in the bloodstream, either air from the burst lung, like here, or nitrogen with decompression sickness, the symptoms can be the same. Anything from itchy skin, pain in joints, skin rash, all the way through to headaches, fatigue, numbness, and even death. Now, fortunately, we don't need to diagnose the cause. The first aid is going to be the same for everything here: oxygen, rest, and medical assistance. We don't even need to be medical experts to describe the condition either, because the blanket term for decompression illness, the blanket term is decompression illness, or DCI, and this covers the two situations that we've been talking about. So DCI is for burst lung, and also for decompression sickness. Now, PADI questions often, quite rightly, focus on the fact that you need to be fit to dive. So you're probably going to get questions like, what increases the risk of decompression sickness? And the correct answer will always relate to things like tiredness, dehydration, obesity, being old, cold, overexertion, anything that might interfere with the blood flow or interfere with a healthy body. So that's about it. There's usually quite a few questions on PADI exams regarding this subject, and in the next lesson I've added quite a few questions with some very typical PADI type wording. And as usual, I've given an explanation with every single one of them, just in case you need a little bit more information. Anyway, good luck with those, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. So welcome to the full IDC preparation course. I'm really excited about this program. The reason why I'm so excited is because it's absolutely jam-packed with all of my wonderful secrets that I teach throughout my whole IDC, which is of course why it's called the full IDC preparation course. So we'll have a little look. The screen we're looking at the moment is called your course player. This is going to become really familiar to you in the next few days. But let's have a look here on the left hand side and we'll find out what's involved down here. So down here we've got our theory topics: physics, physiology, equipment, diving skills, RDP, all that stuff. We'll have a little look a little bit deeper into those in a minute, but I want to talk to you a little bit more about what's in this program. So we scroll down a bit here, we've got PADI standards and procedures, right up to date. You can see the very latest version based on this year's PADI instructor manual. And then when we go down here, we've got some really exciting stuff: teaching in confined water. So this is how to make your confined water teaching presentations really effective and, more importantly, really relevant to your students right from the very start. It's a very powerful way of teaching, I'm going to show you here. Perfect for the real world, of course, but it's also really good for IDCs, and it's great for PADI instructor exams as well. So loads of powerful stuff in there. And scrolling down a little bit further, right down to the bottom, teaching in the classroom. Here, I often get asked, I find people on PADI IDCs, they're really not too sure how to structure teaching in the classroom. It's easier than you think, but it needs to be entertaining. It needs to be full of relevant stuff for your students. And in here, I'll explain how all that works. So let's go right back up to the beginning again and look at these theory topics. Let's see what's in here. We'll pick physics for an example. It's always everyone's favourite, isn't it, physics? So we click on physics and we find that physics is broken down into different subjects here. We'll pick on any one of them. Let's pick on, I don't know, effects of pressure. We'll have a look at effects of pressure. And here we see there's a video playing. So it's a lesson. It's going to last for 15 minutes. It shows you here. I'm going to stop the video. So we're in control. We can stop it, start it. We can get rid of this panel on the left-hand side by clicking these two arrows up here if we want to. Bring it back again. Of course, we've always got full screen, so you can put full screen on, sit back with a cup of coffee and just listen to the whole thing. Gives you, a lot more information. And then what happens, also you've got down here is complete and continue button if you want to, and that will stop the video and take you on to the next lesson. And after all of these lessons, the next lesson always is a quiz of what you've just heard, just to make sure you fully understand it. So here we've got like a question up here, very PADI type question, worded in the way that PADI would word questions. And just like PADI exams, 4 different answers that you can choose from. Find out which one is the one that you think is best suited. And just like on PADI exams, but not like on PADI exams, is if we just pick let's just pick one answer that's the wrong one and click on confirm. We find out it's the wrong answer, but not only that, not only will it tell you what the right answer is, but it will tell you why. So it will give you tips and advice where you've gone wrong to help you succeed. So all of the theory lessons are very similar to this. If we work down, loads of RDP questions, loads of diving skills and environment stuff, loads of videos on there to help you if you're not too sure of how all that stuff worked. When you've done all the theory, gone down here, what we can do then is, if you want to at this stage, go to the final mock theory exams. And here we find right up-to-date theory questions here, all based on like the latest questions that PADI are asking on their exams. So here we've got PADI theory mock exam A. We go all the way A, B, C, D, and E, 2022 version. As you can see, all of the questions where relevant are in metric and imperial, so it's really great for anybody. or for everybody, I should say. And then the format and the content of these exams is the same as you'll find on your final PADI IE. The wording's not the same. The wording of the questions aren't the same. That's not the objective of this. It's not to tell you what the questions are going to be. It's just so that you can understand the theory, and not only understand it, but that you can teach it to other people as well. It's another objective of this course, really. Then once you've done the mock exams, you can go to the answer key here, and you can check your answers. And clearly, if you've got some wrong, you don't understand them, or you've forgotten, you can go back to the lessons and catch yourself up again. So you can work at your own speed, your own pace, and it's fun working through it this way. Then we've got PADI standards and procedures. Again, we've got these are all based on this year's PADI instructor manual, so right bang up to date with the new programs that PADI have introduced this year. They're all in here, so you can teach yourself and work your way around the PADI instructor manual. Loads of questions. There's 50 questions, 5 exams here. Each one's got 50 questions on it. Exactly the same format, exactly the same content as the ones you'll find on your final PADI instructor exam. Once you've done those, you can have a look at your answers. You can check them with your answers. So here I've just gone to PADI Standards Mock Exam E, for example, answers. And here you can check your answers, see if you've got the right ones or not. But of course, a standard exam isn't really to do with your knowledge of standards. It's do you know where to find the standards in your instructor manual? PADI call it an open book. You can have your instructor manual with you when you take the exam, and what you really need to do is know where to find the answers in the manual. And to help you there, in this answers document, we've got all of the questions that we've asked before, but not only have we given you the correct answer, but also the page in the current instructor manual as to where you'll find the answer. So you can go back to the instructor manual and find out where to find the answer. So that's standards and theory dealt with. When we go to confined water, this is brilliant stuff here. So teaching in confined water, understanding your students. This really is good, finding out how your students learn, the psychology behind the students, or behind the way that you can teach your students. Or actually, I prefer to word it a different way. The psychology, not the way that you teach it, but the way that they learn it. So we've got like subjects on there, like on psychology, positive coaching, which is a really fantastic way of teaching people, correcting mistakes. And it gives empowerment to your students. It gives them ownership of their own learning, and it gives them empowerment as to the judge of the success is down to the student. So really it is the next thing here, student-centered training. It truly is explaining how we can make our teaching student-centered rather than instructor-centered. And when you start doing that, it's amazing how quickly students learn and how effectively they pick things up right from the beginning. Once again, this is perfect for IDCs and perfect for IEs as well. And of course, really perfect for the real world as well. Teaching in the classroom, I've already explained. It really does explain to you what we need to achieve in the classroom to get your students, in the right direction, and being able to understand and probably relate different subjects to each other. So lots more than that in the program. It's really full of fun. I'm really looking forward to working with you through this. And please, why don't you join our Facebook page? We've got the Prior Knowledge Family Facebook page. If you join that, then you can let me know how you're getting on with this program. So I'm really looking forward to the future with you. Thanks now.